Hello, folks. Welcome to DRUID Talks. And today I've Dave Hodsdon, the VP of Operations at Liberty Global. And Liberty Global is a world leader in converged broadband video and mobile communications. Where do you see, and we can't avoid this, Dave, unfortunately, where do you see ChatGPT in the context of conversational AI? Are you, Liberty Global, using it, or do you intend to use it? Where does it fit in your own mind?
I knew it was going to come up at some point, Kieran. It feels like everybody's talking about it at the moment, and other large language models are available. I see that Google dropped the latest iteration of Bard, and actually they've built some integrations that are pretty interesting too. Look, there's no doubt that ChatGPT has driven a conversation towards the value of natural language understanding, of large language models, and of processing engines that are able then to contextualize answers. And so, I absolutely see a huge amount of value in all of the above, probably breaking into its component parts rather than favoring, one large language model and one GPT over another. Look, there's use cases for us. Are we using it? Was part of your question. Are we using it? No doubt we're using it throughout our business for lots of different things. It's a complex and multifaceted global business, as you expressed. I think we're still trying to land on, where it's best applied to get the most value from it. Where I see the most interesting use cases, probably split into two places, and I'm probably really splitting out the kind of pre-trained large language model aspect of ChatGPT. And so the immediate use case I see there is I'd like to see that housed inside a product. I'd like to see it housed inside DRUID as a conversational AI. What that's going to do is really boost the ability of the DRUID platform to be able to offer true natural language understanding, which is much more complex than it sounds, I think. Today, we're training models based on when my invoice is going to get paid or how much annual leave I've got left. But actually, use cases in the future should be, I'd like to interrogate a financial statement, perhaps, that I have access to. You've sent me some month-end financials data, and I'd like some commentary on it. And actually, the large language model's ability, when directed within the corporate firewall and within the organization, to be able to contextualize and surface the information that you want and not the information that you don't want, I think is super helpful. I think it brings back a whole category of, well, I know that if I wear my legal hat, that I know that there's been a huge amount of discussion around rights and privileges and and access and data privacy, which is probably for another time. But if I put my more commercial hat on, I think it kind of drives the conversation towards command prompts. Have I asked the right question to get the right answer? And I think some of these large language models, Google and Microsoft being two great examples, they're doing a lot of work to make sure that they've got refinement in the answers that they give. Where I see a direct use case and where we're starting to use it within the support operations, so the shared service center, we're using it for things like document summarization. So I'll give you a really clear use case. When some of our customers are raising queries about family leave policies, about reimbursement for travel or expenses that they've incurred, things like sickness absence policies, they can be 50, 60-page documents. And they have to be, right? Because they've got to provide information for lots of different scenarios. But actually, if you can contextualize those answers by using things like single sign-on, so Kieran, I know that it's you, or it's me, it's Dave, and not only does that personalize the experience, but also it allows the language model to understand that Kieran's a manager, for example. So Kieran's got access to slightly more information when he asks his question. It's contextualized that he has employees, direct reports that work for him. Perhaps it understands my tenure. Perhaps tenure relates to a sickness policy or an annual leave policy or something like that. Perhaps my annual leave goes up with tenure. And so that helps from a contextual perspective. But then, the GPT itself is then providing me only the part of the policy which is relevant to the query that I've asked. So, hey Dave, you've asked about annual leave. You've been employed for 9 years with Liberty Global, and so you're entitled to X number of days. You've taken Y number of days, and so you've got X remaining. Would you like to book them? Yes, I would. Okay, what sort of, is this holiday? Well, actually, no, I'm going to go do some volunteering work. Oh, well, did you know, Dave, that actually you don't need to take holiday for that? Your company pays for some time off for you to do some volunteering experiences. Why don't I put that through for you? And actually, this is contextualizing the policy as it relates to me. It is allowing me to free type a query, but it is also actually asking 3 or 4 different queries of the data, and it's returning me the contextualized answer. That is a great, user experience, and that is how I see, ChatGPT, to answer the direct question, will assimilate in, models like the DRUID virtual assistants, conversational AI, and that's the use case that I'd expect to be able to capitalize.
I love that answer. We'll see DRUID LLM in the near future, and as you say, other models are available. What advice, Dave, would you give to people to try and get the most ROI out of their investment in conversational AI?
Yeah, look, it's an art and not a science, I think, and we're still spending a huge amount of time looking at how we measure output. For me, it starts with measure output. So make sure that when you're going into this, relationship, you have some measurable data already, things that matter. So the volume of queries that you receive, the time that it takes you to respond to a query, the time of day that those queries are received, or night. And this is telling you a few things. When your customers would like to interact with you and when they'd like a response from you, and sometimes 10 p.m. at night, it's Saturday, do you know what I mean? And sometimes our customers are working unseasonable hours, and so your virtual assistant is able to respond to your customer when they need you. And the bit that I think adds a huge amount of value and often overlooked is if you're able to empower the requester with a direct answer in the moment when they need you, they're able to get on with whatever it was they were doing before they raised the query to you. And actually, you're empowering them, you're enabling them to do more in a shorter space of time. There's a value, point there. How I think that manifests is, I think it comes back to this kind of concept of stickiness. And when you're a service provider, as I am, and as we are, we're constantly thinking about how the service that we provide to a customer is received by that customer, and whether it adds or detracts away from the value that they get from the service that they procure. And so, I always imagine myself in a renewal conversation, and I think, well, if you're able to access me when you need me, if I give you the answer in a few seconds rather than you having to wait 24 hours or across traditional SLA, all of that's driving this kind of sticky relationship, reasons why I like you, reasons why it works for me. And that's super valuable, to the shared services, the service provider. It's super valuable to our end user, the customer. And then just getting back to that kind of ROI point with, the information that you already have and the queries that you already receive. It's never too late to start capturing it, but really understanding what it is that you're looking to achieve from the virtual assistant before you start the relationship, I think is important. For us, this is, we get kind of 8,000 queries a month coming through by volume. And, we have, X number of people purely responding to those queries. And you made a really good point earlier, Kieran, which is, nobody signed up to respond to queries, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so, I feel the burden of the obligation of, of leadership. And, leadership is as much about adding value to, as a custodian of all of the people that you have a relationship with, a responsibility for, adding value to their lives, to their careers, the decision they make to come to work every day and to work with and for you, you need to pay that back. And paying it back is a full-time role. And one of the ways in which we do that is by automating the mundane, the transactional, the high volume, the repeatable, and then engaging our people in value-add activities which both grow their experience and ultimately their careers, the skills that they have, the value of the interactions that they have, their engagement. But at the same time, providing this service to customers. So I just finished by saying, look, I think you measure value in lots of different ways, and return on investment for me is down to how you deploy. So I've said this already, but proper engagement. 7 out of 10 of these transformation projects fail because you don't get engagement at all levels. Make sure that you get it. Clear outcomes, so understand the data that you have today to talk to why people are using a service that you're looking to digitize using a virtual assistant, so that kind of glide path that you've got to driving efficiency, and then also measuring value, not just the direct stuff. So how many queries can one person deal with in a day, which is pretty arbitrary, and into how am I adding value to the customer that I'm providing services to, and what does that mean if that customer's asked in respect of what that experience feels like? Is it driving sticky, long-term, long-lasting future relationships? Because that's where the real value is for me.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. And Dave, where do you see you going with this technology in the future? What's the future going to look like for you in Liberty Global with conversational AI?
Oh, look, we're at the start of our journey and not the end. You and I have spoken before about this wonderful digitized world that we live in. And actually, when we look back kind of 3 to 5 years, and we spent a lot of time talking about transactional automation, administrative automation, the kind of connections between system to system, fewer clicks, less time spent, and we now see ourselves, having provided an automated solution for the high volume and repeatable. And we're moving, 100%, we're moving into the valuable knowledge work arena now with the technology investments, and conversational AI is going on that journey with us. So things I'd expect to see, the ability of the virtual assistant to be able to offer contextualized insight to financial commentary. So I see a number, in a cost center at the end of a period. I'd like to understand, a little bit of context behind that number. How does it compare to last month's number? How does it, what is included in that number? What is its component parts? And, how should I think about it? Think things like, I'm a business leader, and actually I'd like to know how many people within my team have had conversations, one-to-ones, connected conversations within the last period of time. And I'd like to know what the sentiment from those conversations was. How are my team feeling? And actually using conversational AI to ask more intuitive, more valuable questions, and being able to interrogate larger data sets, I think provides a wealth of value that we're only just starting to unlock.
Oh, wow. Dave, thank you so much. That's all my questions today. I got really absorbed in that. The bits, there's some highlights of that really stand out. I think the most of all I'm hearing is caring. You care about your team, and as many leaders say that as I hear many a day, not many do. But throughout this interview, the passion you talk about for delivering customer experience through really engaged, really developed, and genuinely developed employees is absolutely fantastic to hear. And I love the word friction that I mentioned earlier on. You just remove friction from their work, you remove friction from the customer's experience, and all that will lead to sticky business relationships. And I love how you describe that, not just as an economic number, because you're making a massive difference there. 65 out of every 100 calls going up to 85 out of every 100 calls being answered, and removing that admin burden. But I love the way you brought it back every time to the employee experience, the customer experience, and their stickiness, and they're answering their specific question. It's really refreshing to hear. Thank you so much for that interview time today. I really appreciate that.
Of course, look, pleasure to talk to you, Kieran. Thanks so much for having me.